great and loving God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, my God, my strength, and my Redeemer. Amen. So I picked an icky story this morning. Got your attention, didn't we? This summer, only one left, as a matter of fact, next week. This summer we've been exploring some of the lesser known characters in the Bible. All of them had an impact on the major characters. And those are the people we usually call heroes. But some of these people are heroes nonetheless. Remember that last week we talked about Boaz, who married Ruth and became an ancestor of King David, of whose house Jesus was born. And today we're going to talk about Jael or Yael or Jael, depending upon which pronunciation you like, of whom probably most of you have never heard. That's because we don't talk about the icky parts, right? Jael was a hero. A hero, or a heroine, if you prefer. So today what I want to talk about is heroism. What it is, and what it isn't, and how you can recognize it. Reminds me of when I was a kid and I was taught how to recognize poison ivy. This isn't poison ivy, this is. Don't eat the berries off of this bush, right? You learn that. So I want to start out by setting the stage. It was the time of the judges in Israel, before the people demanded that they have a king. The judges were elected by the people and served a term. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? They were elected by the people and served a term, and they were responsible for the spiritual health of the people. They also seem to have served as a governmental body and also acted as what we today call judges. And they led the armies. So they were like all-round leaders. The ultimate in public servants. And Deborah was one of the more famous judges. You've probably heard of Deborah. And at least, she was important enough to have her story told. Now, at this time, the Hebrews were still establishing themselves in the Promised Land. Joshua had died, and the leadership moved quickly to the judges. And then there was the problem of those pesky Canaanites. You remember them? Now, under the command of General Sisera, they were attacking the Hebrew armies, and they were winning. So, Deborah, along with General Barak, went out to fight them. And the Hebrew army routed the Canaanites. And the general of the Canaanites, Sisera, escaped the battlefield. Okay? And now there was a Kenite named Heber who had moved away from his tribe. Kenite is a Hebrew tribe, by the way. Okay? So he'd moved away from the tribe, and he'd set up a household near the town of Kadesh. And Kadesh was near to the big battle. The one that we were just talking about. And Heber's wife was named Jael. Now, when Sisera fled the battlefield, he sought refuge in the tent of Heber. Now, Heber wasn't home. So he demanded that Jael give him a place to stay, a place to hide. And she let him in and gave him dinner and a place to sleep, and then she killed him. That is Jael's fate. She killed the general of the opposing army. Now, who's the hero of the story? who's the hero of the story? Certainly, Deborah and the Hebrew army are considered heroes because they defeated the Canaanite army. And Jael killed Sisera, the general, so she must be a hero too, right? Well, what if the Hebrews had lost? What if they had lost? Would Jael have been a hero? Probably not. Probably not. Sisera would have been the hero. A martyr, perhaps. And Jael would have been the demon, the one who assassinated Sisera because she was part of the evil Hebrew horde. You know, when I was a kid, my grandfather would watch the Westerns on TV. You probably all had a grandfather who did that, if you're as old as I am. Every Saturday, we watched the cowboy shows together. Now, of course, the good guys were the ranchers and the sheriffs. And the bad guys were the Native Americans. Now, today we know that the situation was much more complicated than that. The Native Americans were and are conquered peoples who were pushed off their lands and often killed or enslaved. Of course, from the point of view of the settlers, they were savages who attacked for no reason. And this clash of cultures continues in various ways today. But the way we talk about, the way we name our enemies, or even the way we talk about or name those people who are different from us, makes a difference. It makes a difference. Are they freedom fighters? If we agree that the group who is fighting for the right things, well then yes, they're freedom fighters. Are they rogue militants? If we disagree with what they're fighting for, well then of course, that's who they are. If we don't agree or disagree, then we give them some kind of a neutral name, like rebels or dissenters. And that's true throughout history. It's true throughout history. During the American Revolution, the British were the bad guys, right? Unless you happen to be British. And on. We can name a lot of them. Okay? But you know what? That's also true when we talk about religion. It's also true. MCC is variously called a denomination, an LGBT sect, or usually, when people are using it in that way, that gay church. Or, don't get excited here, a Satan-inspired non-church.
No.
Okay? That's what we've been called. It just depends. It depends on whether those naming us are in agreement with what we stand for. It just depends. You know, in fact, in this country, the term Christian has really been co-opted to define a specific view of Christianity. You know, when people talk about the Christian right, for instance, they're talking about that specific view. That in general, not always, but in general doesn't include MCC, and also doesn't include many mainstream denominations. My friends, words are powerful. Words are powerful. And we need to think about what words we use, because those words define who other people are for us. They define other people for us. Now, what does that mean? It means that sometimes we need to ask questions. You know, we may need to ask someone what pronoun they prefer. What do you want me to call you? He, she, za, sie. All kinds of different pronouns that people prefer. We need to sit down with other people and ask them how they feel about things. Not just assume that we know. We need to ask. And we need to share our feelings, because we can never understand where someone else is coming from. We can never understand where someone else is coming from. Totally understand. But we can do our best to gain information. We can do our best. And we can try to treat other people as they want to be treated. So, you know, when you talk about heroes, each one of us, every one of us could be a hero in our own story. The question is, are we heroes in the stories of others? No? Are we heroes in the stories of others? Or are we oppressors in the story of others? Are we a hero to the Hebrews, or a hero to the Canaanites? It's a question. So, here's the deal. This week, go out and be a hero. Go out and be a hero. However, you can invite the general into your tent, but don't use the tent peg. Amen? Amen.